Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the delicate balance of scaling when you are more of a personal brand. So how do you scale personal brand versus business brand and how that shifts and transitions over time? This is one of those areas that can be a real identity evolution and identity shift for someone. A lot of times when you are a coach or a consultant or a service provider, and people are initially working with you or working with you and your team, they are buying you. And when you are more of the face of your brand and you are the one who's putting out content and thought leadership content and videos and speaking on stages or virtually, if you have your own podcast in your own platform in some way, shape, or form, people in a lot of ways are buying you. There may be other people that are implementing. There may be a method that you've developed that they're following, but a lot of that is really built around you. And if you look at the way that you're marketing, if you look at the way that you're talking about things, if you're looking at the way that referrals are coming in, a lot of times it is centered around you. Well, you only scale so far. Right? Your business, your framework, your system, your team, they're much more scalable. You personally are going to eventually have a ceiling on what you can do. But does that mean that you can't scale? Of course not. You can, but how do you approach it? So the first thing that you have to process through, and this is more of that mental, personal growth, personal journey piece of it, beyond the practical, like, how do I do this in the business piece, is really getting comfortable with, getting clear on, and accepting being able to scale a brand that isn't about you as the person, about you as the founder, about you as the ideator, or the incredible innovator behind whatever your system or your framework or your process, whatever that is. It's if you actually are able to take a step back in the business, maybe you have that right-hand rock star person that I talk about all the time who can lead the day-to-day. Well, what if it's not just the operational day-to-day, but what if they're leading the full day-to-day? What if they're the one who's talking to the clients? What if they step up as more of the face of the brand even? Now, a lot of right-hands do not want to do that from a public-facing perspective. They'll do it internal all day long. Others are perfectly comfortable with it. So when you think about your role and where you want to take things as your business continues to scale bigger and bigger and bigger, or broader and broader when you're looking at the impact that you're trying to make, right? I know for myself personally and for a lot of my clients, it's more scaling from an impact perspective, where I know my big focus and a lot of what I'm shifting into more is more speaking engagements. I'm working on my book. I'm doing a lot of that because I want to be able to impact a lot more people. And I want to get the lean scaling system and the work that I've done, the stuff that I've done over these past 30 years, into as many businesses as possible, because I know that that is what is going to help them be able to scale, to keep things simple, to be able to sustain their success, to be able to actually have the freedom they went into their business for in the first place. Instead of it being a cliche, it becomes an actual reality for them. And I'm at that point in my journey where I am on just such a personal mission to make that happen, that I am setting up Strategic Ops Institute in the new brand, the new division within Lean Out Method, to be something that can scale without me. And it is interesting, right? Even though I've done this before, it's still a little bit weird. I created the lean scaling system. It's based on my 30 plus years of experience as an entrepreneur. It's based on this that I learned and that I learned. And now I'm certifying other people in it, and I'm teaching them my methods, and they're going to be the face of this system. And then there's going to be more people that come in. Maybe you're going to come in and get certified, and you're going to be the face of the system. And I have my right-hand woman who I'm very much putting out front. You're hearing Jessica on the podcast more, right? And so I'm intentionally setting this up to scale. And I'm doing it in a really big way because to me, this will be an 8-figure brand. That's what I'm doing with this. And it's not because I want to make 8 figures, which is cool. Like, by all means, sure, 8 figures sounds great. But that to me is more the impact that I want to make. I know that operations needs to change and it needs to change in a big way. And I know what business owners need to actually successfully scale their business. Not all this hyped up BS that other people are saying. Like, I've actually done this for 3 decades. I know what businesses need. And I want more people to understand how to actually practically be able to get into a business and scale it, to know how to handle the different situations and the different things that come up. I want that all to be able to happen. And I cannot do that myself without hitting a ceiling far lower than the one that I want to hit. I need to be able to have other people that can go out and do this, which is why I'm certifying people and licensing them in my methods, right? And so for me, that's it personally. But again, there's the process and how I'm doing it. And I'll share a little bit about that with you here because it might help you think about how you want to scale if people are today buying you and your brilliance and your thought leadership and your innovation, which today really most people are still buying that of me, but I'm shifting that and I'm working to shift that. So I'll kind of take you along that journey with me. But that being said, there is very much the internal growth piece of that we all need to go through to say, I have to be okay with somebody knowing that the lean scaling system is what they want in their business and not having any idea that it was created by Krista Grasso, right? Like, I have to be totally okay with the people who are getting certified in my method for their circle of people to see them as the expert on it and to not know that I exist. Right. And so sometimes for a lot of people, that is a super hard transition, especially when it's your life's work, when it's something that you're so deeply passionate about and so driven to do. It's like, it feels really weird to have it not be you. It feels weird to have someone else take over and run the business that you built and to lead the thing that you've always led. So this is part strategy and part practice, things that you do to make it happen. But I find that that part's almost the easy part. The harder part is the internal journey in the internal shift that you have to make to recognize that you have a personal brand. And yes, you, the person, the brilliant, amazing person that you are the one that built the business that you have, the methods that you use. But over time, those things are going to live on and are going to lead on, not necessarily with it always being you. So just get clear on if that's something that feels good for you. Now, one other caveat I will say here is I am personally certifying people in my methods, and I have a certain way of doing this. That may not be a way that is of any interest to you whatsoever. You don't have to certify other people in your methods. There's tons of different degrees of which you do this. But the thing is, really, are people buying you or are people buying the thing that you created? Whatever that thing is that you created could be an incredible service, could be an incredible program, could be an incredible framework or system, right? Are they buying you or are they buying the thing that you created? That to me is kind of more the distinction about it. And the more they're buying the thing versus you, the more scalability that you have ahead of you. Now, again, it also ties back to your goals. If your goal is 7-figure business and you want to do that and scale you can do that with group programs. You could do that with group programs and still maintain one-on-one if you love it with certain select clients, but most of what you do is group and scalable. You can get yourself to 7 figures there, multi-7 figures even. But if you want to go much further, very hard to do when it's too dependent on you. That being said, we all know plenty of personal brand people out there who've done it. So it's absolutely possible. But I'm looking at more of the probable scenarios as opposed to being the unicorn scenario and kind of hanging your hat on that being the case. So let's talk about personal versus business brand for a moment and some of the strengths and some of the concerns with each, and then how you do make that transition realistically. Let's say you're cool with it from a mindset perspective, you're all in, you'd love to do it. Now, how do you actually do it? But first, let's look at some of the pros, cons, and risks of it. So if you have a personal brand today and things are very much people are buying you, maybe your business is named after you even, and people really, you are synonymous with whatever you do, it ends up definitely being a little bit harder to scale beyond yourself. It's harder to introduce someone else to do what you do. People want you, they don't want the other person. So it ends up being a bit of a transition, and you can give yourself a capacity ceiling if people are expecting you, whether that's one on one or whether that's in a group format, they're still expecting you. It definitely limits your exit opportunities. So a lot of times people are like, I want to build this business and I want to sell it. I'm helping a lot of people with putting together their plans for selling their business right now. Well, really hard if what you're trying to sell is a personal brand, because how do you sell you? Right? So if you know you wanna sell, and right now you have a personal brand, one of the best things that you can do is start to transition it over to a bit of a business brand so that you have something that's more saleable. Not that you can't do it, you can sell personal brands, but much harder to do, and you're typically not gonna get the same valuation. Personal brands, awesome, amazing, great for the ego, great in a lot of ways, also really great at creating a whole heck of a lot of dependency on you and a very fast path to burnout, right? So they're great in so many ways, and they have really high risk and very high rates of burnout in others. But that being said, the pluses of personal brands is authority and trust, right? Especially today as AI is growing, as there's so much content and so much abundance of information. People really want to buy from someone that they feel like they know and someone that they feel like they trust and that they like. And you can do that much easier in a lot of ways with a personal brand. You can absolutely do it with a business brand as well. And you can do it with something that's a hybrid of both. Probably easiest to do with a personal brand. It definitely, in a lot of ways, helps you stand out in the market. There is only one you. There may be thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of other people that do what you do in the broad sense. But there is literally not a single other person who does what you do exactly the way that you do, because you are you. And so that is the unique part of a personal brand. And sometimes, honestly, that's one of the things that holds people back from moving away from a personal brand, because they think there's no one else who could ever do this exactly the way that I do it. And therefore, I don't want anyone else to do it with my name on it. The other thing about personal brand is if you do want to maintain any level of work with clients yourself, whether it's one on one or you're doing a small circle retreat or event or mastermind or something, some experience where people get you as part of it. That definitely is really great if you are associated with the brand, and it allows you to charge an absolute premium when you have that coupled with the business brand being the thing that's very scalable. Now, the things that work really well about business brands, they are scalable for sure, and they aren't as dependent on one person, right? If you are a personal brand and you get sick, if you are a personal brand and for some reason you can't do something, your business is in pretty big jeopardy. Even if you've got good systems and you've got good team and you've got good things to keep things running for a bit, over an extended period of time, if the person behind the personal brand is no longer present or capable or available to be in places, the brand will suffer. With a business brand, that is much less the case. It is a team sport, it is team oriented. As a result, one person, one individual doesn't make as much of an impact on the overall success of the brand. Definitely easier to sell or easier to step back and step away from, because again, it's not dependent on one person, you or somebody else. So it becomes easier to make those transitions. So there's ways to really blend the two together, which I love, and I'm going to walk you through. But first, I'm going to just give you an idea on how to transition. If you are very personal brand today, and you're thinking, you know what, I do think I'd like to transition to a little bit more of a business brand. I want to make it less dependent and reliant on me. Maybe I am looking ahead in 5, 10 years. I want to sell the business or even further out. So I'm trying to strategically look at how I can make some of these shifts. I think one of the very first things that you can do is actually separate your name from your business. And this is a bit controversial. There's a lot of people that say, note your name should be the business. There's a lot of other people that don't. If you notice, none of my businesses are my name. I've done that very strategically because I have always wanted something that could be sellable. Not necessarily that I would sell, but I want the choice and the option to be able to sell it. At the end of the day, I think about it strategically. And I just like having them separate. And I do always think to the future. And to me, from a salability and an optionality perspective, having it not be me gives me more options. So that is the way I have always approached it. So I do think you would want to separate your name from the business. If today your name is the business, you'll want to think about some of that transition. An easy way to do that for now is to create a brand website that is separate from you, but where you start to talk about and point back and forth between the two. So usually it's built around your signature framework or system, but it certainly doesn't need to be. The other thing I'm going to tell you, which is probably no surprise to you, is that you need to systematize your business. So you want to make sure that you've got workflows and processes and systems and SOPs and things that are able for somebody else to come in and pick things up to be able to run the business. So you want to make sure that really your entire business is systematized. Even the stuff that you choose to do manually, even the stuff that you choose to do yourself, still helpful if it's systematized and someone can do it, even if you choose not to have them do it right away. One of the other things that you want to do is really put your team out front, start showcasing the people that you want to be more visible in the brand. So you've seen me do this a lot over the years. Certainly, you're hearing Jessica on the podcast a bit more now that she's back with the team. You've heard me put Annie on the podcast quite a bit. We joke about the Krista and Annie show. Now we joke about the Krista and Jessica show, right? And so more and more, who is it on your team or one of your partners or directionally where you see your business going that it would make sense for you to be making more visible? If there isn't an individual, how do you at least start to talk up your team as a collective? It's not that you did something awesome, it's that you and your team did something awesome, or that your team on their own did something awesome. So, how can you start to bring that front and center so it becomes less about you only and more about you as the collective you? So then, as you're starting to put other people out front, it makes a lot of sense. One of the other things that's really tough is if you are the person who's doing the things, it is really hard for people to separate the business from you. So, how do you truly step into the visionary leadership role in your business, the CEO and visionary leadership role, as opposed to the person who's still delivering and still doing? Now, this is separate and distinct from personal one on one, like high end clients, but this is more if you have a done for you service, are you personally still doing it? If you have a service in general, right? Do you have a team that's out and doing it? How much are you involved? So, the more you can decouple yourself from that, the more it makes it feel like a business brand instead of a personal brand. Now, my favorite way to do this is to not pick one over the other, but to do a little bit of both. I tend to lean a little bit more towards the business brand when it comes to naming things, when it comes to leading with my systems and my frameworks and my methods, right? My lean scaling system, SPSTI, which is the backbone of the lean scaling system, my simplify to scale framework, which is part of the lean scaling system, right? You hear me talk about a lot of these things, lean out method. It's an entire method for leaning things out, simplifying things, getting rid of complexity, aligning to value, right? So you hear me talk about these things a lot. And so people will say, you've got that framework, you've got that pyramid for teams, like, right, the Lean Dream Team pyramid, that thing, that I know you for your pyramid. I'm like, awesome. That's what I want to hear. You have that thing, that acronym for scaling, like SPSTI. Yes. Yeah, that thing. And so people still think of me, but they think of the frameworks that I have. They think of the systems that I have. They think of the things that they know get people results, as opposed to it just being that I get people results. And so it's the blend of both. And that seems to work really well for me right now. I'm going to transition more to business brand over time, but I'm in that transition period with Strategic Ops Institute. So definitely look at how you can start to put some of those other things forward so people are associating them with you from more of a business brand perspective. So think about where you fall on the spectrum of where you want to be. And if today you are more of a personal brand, how you can transition into more of a business brand. And if you have more of a business brand, how you can pull in more of a personal brand feel to it, whether that's you that's out front or whether that's highlighting your team. I'm going to give an example of this because I think this is kind of fun. So, Richard Branson, I think you know, is one of the people who I just respect so much in the way that he approaches business and life in general, right? Super go getter at his age. He's in far better physical shape than I think I will ever be. He's not slowing down anytime soon. He truly loves what he does. He continues to innovate and build new businesses. And he comes in with the idea, puts the rock star team in place, equips them with everything they need to be successful, and lets them be successful, right? I love it. But what he has done is manage that balance between personal brand and business brand. And if you follow his newer cruise ship line on Instagram, it's Virgin Voyages. So if you follow that account, they have done something kind of fun where, sure, he's front and center in some of the commercials and stuff, but a lot of times they're putting the people who are on the cruises and their experiences out there, or they're showing the fun experiences and adventures that you're going to have when you're there. But they did this whole fun thing with the social media team where you got to know the social media team and they put themselves out front and they were being silly. And I thought it was a really cute and clever play. And what I love about it is Richard Branson has a very distinct vibe and very distinct brand energy. And whether it is him that you are seeing or whether it's any one of his brands, doesn't matter who's talking, who you're looking at, what content you're seeing, it all has the exact same brand vibe. You have a certain expectation of quality and luxury and experience with his stuff, and an element of fun and whimsy and kind of adventure with his stuff. And that fits him and that fits his brand. And so if you go back and just, I don't know when it was a little while back. But if you go through some of their Instagram posts, if you didn't see them, they were kind of fun what they were doing with the social media stuff. And that to me is the perfect blend of personal brand and business brand. You don't expect when you go take a cruise that Richard Branson is going to be there and he's going to greet you and welcome you to the ship, right? You don't expect that, yet you expect that there's going to be touches of his personality and his innovation style and his expectations around quality. And all of that's going to be part of your experience. And it is. That to me is just such a great blend of personal and business brand. So the reality is that if you do want to scale, if you want to build an 8-figure brand, if you want to build a high multi 7-figure brand, if you just want to keep on going and make the biggest impact possible and you have no limit on where you want to take this thing, you do need to think about how you want to set your business up to be able to scale beyond you. If you are more of a personal brand today, you will hit a ceiling with that without making some of the changes that we talked about in this episode. And you personally will not be able to move past it without making that personal identity evolution in order to step beyond the role that you have played in your business, knowing that other people are going to be front and center and that this incredible legacy that is going to potentially live on and continue to make the impact that you want it to make isn't going to be as directly tied to you, but it is instead going to be you as the innovator behind it. So I hope this gave you some things to think about and you got a lot of value out of this episode. As always, if you want any support, go ahead and put some time on my calendar at leanoutmethod.com/consult, and we can talk about what it would look like to work with me and my team or to get certified yourself as one of the incredible people who are leveraging the lean scaling system. But with that, I hope you have an incredible week, and I will see you again next week.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. If you have not yet taken our scalability assessment, I invite you to head to leanoutmethod.com/assessment and take our interactive assessment that's going to help you look at how simple, how sustainable, and how scalable your business currently is. It includes personalized recommendations of where to focus next to get your time back, to increase your impact, increase your profits, and ultimately step into your rich, fulfilled life. And finally, we'd love to see you inside our signature program, Simplify to Scale. You can head to leanoutmethod.com/ops to find all of the details on how we can help you uplevel your operations and get out of the day-to-day of your business.